Sabakaya, enche bia ena mbeba amane. Sa brantie baako anase papa baako a ya arrest no and then the car Kofi Boat and Pascal of Park Academy ho. And the Derek Van Yeboah. We pleaded guilty to one of the counts one indictment in the emu. Emma wajiatum so better a restitution of 10 million US dollars. Rikwe ya sentence Van to 85 months in prison. We have calculation a 7 years and a sentence. We waiving the rights to an appeal. And I was also a jatum, so be under 2 years supervised release. And not yet, and yejuma because one year citizen of the United States of America. But again, and a call the sentence no emo. I have gossip 24. Mesro, so be me a subscribe button so now I click the notification icon. You go to the story. Right. Like I said earlier, Derek Van Yeboah a part of enipa miensa FBI for be extradite omodio mu free Ghana ha say ekwen so beka Inus Ahmed aka Pascal of Park Academy Kofi Boat and so eka Isaac Boating Kofi Boat eka on and after Derek Van Yeboah nakasa and about papa akọ ka on the no akewura FBI for enyam monsa ensuma sa monsa enya kan ba sa nipa miensa and FBI for edi omukoko piemu US memo no mo di omukọ no omu charge Derek Van Yeboah no with conspiracy to commit wire fraud, fraud by wire, money laundering, conspiracy to receive stolen money, and after receipt of stolen goods. Where any charges on the board Derek Van Yeboah. And Derek Van Yeboah nakasa ebiena no eka say o pleaded guilty. Na guilty no o pleaded to one count conspiracy to commit wire fraud. And no pleaded guilty to. Emma USA for Edemana. Emma nisa so jitu mu say obe forfeit 10 million US dollars in restitution. Emma mo de board say Nyankopon ya adom July busumi mu and omo de sentencing ebema no. Sentencing number so last week. But justice delayed is not justice denied. It require and a sentencing no ebai. Now before us a sentencing ebema no. Na nipa binom atro letters, right? In the case of Derek Van Yeboah no, I followed a lot of cases, but in the case of Derek Van Yeboah there were over 50 letters and unfortunately from the wife, and they call the mom, and they call the cousins, and they call Nkrofa, Utsum school fees, the mama, and they call one lady and the busiamu, ne papaya blind near dear, or we in our church or letters, even including on Henia or Sampa Value or wager, or we in our church letters. And if you are watching this video, this is telling you, indeed, I've read all the letters, right? Or we in our church letters. Well, 50 letters. I'm a probation officer, so sure letter. Actually, said Derek Van Yeboah since Oba prison or no mono or that's what Papa D will go through the course where any certificates near there or facility no more holding the one or any other. So all these letters, are there and the lawyers no piling it up. And I'm not sure my final address. More day my judge and say, Judge, who Derek Van Yeboah. Because Derek Van Yeboah often humble beginning. None papa a scrap dealer and a name man so a ton idea or local market. Even at a point in time, no, now was I never papa and my movie cuts and my grandpa fee. Derek Van Yeboah often Pentecost a bussy and Pentecostal home now free. Or I say, Yadin Amiso and I say no Derek Van Yeboah Nankasa, it's a key after never panic trade now or son or tongue. Scraps no ebi from a humble beginning. Or ya bonia tia bet tiano and yasam ketwa. And all the year, Babe do baby, our baby companies, Van Scope, real estate, any idea or worry or any year or Mabaku enum. I need the cacao na Sammy case ya be. I'm a Derek Van Yeboah hearing in Bano, almost struggle. I might just affecting Kolanimpo. Now, Derek Van Yeboah, on a violent person. Why say, and for crack can once and power letters now, or Monsieur Van Yeboah, Emma area or Mutimo. Obedri crying so gata or hoye drainage system mama insota a year more van Yeboah more to school fees more boa community no street lights in the kaka we natural letters and the supporting lawyer in some can and a lawyer necessary capture subiumbo said Derek Van Yeboah on one casacasa they pleaded guilty we pleaded guilty charges are with the board and also empower general form so to do when you know who was such an again now letter create free prison one or more more than a quatric and Mamma can answer me. And by out so what does my papa di? Oh, prison woman, so a hard working or thinking outside the box near the good man. And my mom man is sentenced Casabiasa. And for some, I know Casay a dear. Elevate hot watch for any device be a big just so for social media, Bibiano. No be a kind of check with sugar level and I should now dear no sugar level now was spiking it with saying cholesterol. elevate hot for device on media bay. Morocco, South Africa, a hot deal winning side device in the finally Ghana had here. A fiancer FDA and standards authority for no adjatuma elevate hot say. So we fear or school or hospital or clinic B, more office B, any of them bet me as 6-in-1 device CBS 6-in-1 because ubet me they are checking blood sugar, ubet me they are checking cholesterol, ubet me they are checking hemoglobin, ubet me they are checking uric acid, and the eka can win now back 6 and I'll bet me a check with this particular device elevate for their baby. So the numbers in that screen is no so pay be for numbers ye free and answer WhatsApp your more on be deliver at the moment be share no more their bro will be and even the Derek Van Yeboah pleaded guilty to no. And that's why for Derek Van Yeboah no more dim come no more vulnerable people sir and conform more 60s 70s near the of course age no now vulnerable limits the classifies will be a vulnerable in such cases US no and you say be any panel ni age not 70 or bro 80 so kwanya de any panel you diagnosing medically say be or dementia na say or syndrome B any panel onye capable ni ni yemu no oto si won ni yemu na adwemu ni de kaka on na betimi aka so you vulnerable what I say but then if I want for no mudi nkomo nyina mo ka so mo your victims. There's nothing that what happened. I say they were vulnerable people who take advantage of them. But regardless, no, we pleaded guilty too. Instead of we pleaded guilty niti. Mo woni mo na mo find the money enche no. Na be a kwata some money bibi kra na. Mo money be 60 months. 60 months dear. Mo the money 60 months no would have translated into 5 years in prison. Now Derek Van Yeboah was so jail to mukra so be tuya and as be forfeit $10.1 million US. Mo pay we na mpede. Judge who Derek Van Yeboah mobo na mano a lesser sentence 60 months there fair it's way and the Derek Van Yeboah lawyers actually edema judge no. But then why did the judge give Derek Van Yeboah 7 solid years a year equivalent to 85 months? It is because of letter US Justice Department actually edema judge no. And let me walk you through the letter. Perhaps you would understand things better and know the entire judge I'm Derek Van Yeboah 5 years and I say a lesser sentence any US Justice Department say omo follow sa romance scam ni business email compromising for a while, and this is why it will interest you as a Ghanaian to know say the FBI they know what they are about, right? Almost say almost the day who say there are levels in the game no and yes I would see obi nipa na ye Fort Boy no game no ye wa chairman wo ho and ye wa sakawa boy wo ho and ye wa middleman wo ho and ye wa abochi wo ho no manasa aboki wo ho inti sa 4 levels we chairman no nipa na or sitting at the top of the whole conspiracy scheme. Oh no chairman not say romance scheme no that ano ono che say we en chat we fa sika nko ha we nye say we nye sika we percentage say ono e chairman no and na sakawa boys no and na ye omo te computer na chi e chat client no en wo format no omo and omo ye sakawa boys omo no mo behind the keyboard it we chairman fi wa sakawa boy na NX and na middleman no mostly no mo ni Ghana mostly na no mo US omo no mo create bank account e mo di gisika e di tomu ene ade ena aboki for no ena omo ba be sika no e de ba Ghana nti ono de ebia no de sika na toka no de aba Ghana ebia no de sika na to chain no de aba Ghana ebia no de sika na to watch de aba Ghana omo ena omo ya aboki for no omo no movie sika no. It's this how our FBI for a break it down fraud in the romance scam the business email compromise no omo break it down the chain no the full chain men can say what's our scheme we mo say there are 4 levels our scheme we into obi amuchini biya no omunim level I nipa ni belong to. And in the case of Derek Van Yeboah no onye chairman oye sakawa boy. In the case of Derek Van Yeboah no onye chairman oye sakawa boy, so it means say in Derek Van Yeboah's circle no there is a chairman wo ho, but Derek Van Yeboah there oye sakawa boy a chese ono no our FBI 4 times musa no mama no ono no chat clients no. And they are going to prove it. In proving it, no, FBI for HM say, Derek Van Yeboah, right? Why you may ya che? How much say victims are or more FBI for it me appointed to say omo messages any idea I just say we a victim 10 victims but enkrofo mutumi bar forward ma evidence ma witness statements no e nipa akọ 4 and from the omo FBI for study ni chese there even Yeboah ye adwuma for almost 9 years or shall say in the year 2015 but in nipa 4 no adansi di omo di abane chese from 2017 to 2020 there Derek Van Yeboah agency nipa 4 ni mu enipa miensa ho sika. It's out of the 4 victims or mobile forward no. Right? It was 10 victims or more FBI for say Derek Van Yeboah directly involved with, right? And out of the 10 victims of 4 and bar forward. Out of the 4 now a bar forward. And when nipa miensa extra from 2017 to 2020, Derek Van Yeboah ho sika. I'm about to say investigators FBI for ye ina no. Omo ni say Derek Van Yeboah there. Bebe $10 million there. Edwuma yodi ni hu shemu yi. Wama nkofo lose ska bebe $10 million. And wama nkofo lose through Safford scheme Derek Van Yeboah. But omo ni say Derek Van Yeboah no. Wa should they create companies. Our Ghana and I and so real estate. Vanscope real estate no more ye donation I and say oni nkofo partner our business mu and the Vanscope foods Vanscope way no more ye insuni na money laundering na there by boy ye Ghana has in sign no money na ye sika onya for move for the past 9 years and what they churches ha no money mu onye do me bia o ye bia e tell no more FBI for no e break it down and somewhere victims yi aka mo. It's the first victim no. You better the DBR. Sandy pay mami bi ana we 70 years old. Na sa mami BR ana we 70 years old the extra. Ono Derek Van Yeboah agene ho no bebe $1 million. Mami the evidence had shown say between 2017 to 2019. October 2017 to March 2019 there. Derek Van Yeboah atwene the bebe $1 million. And then the second victim, mami bi awedi infisia eduosia enum 65 years old woman. Don't know Ohio. Chem say Derek Van Yeboah introduce ne ho ekye so your friend Gary Bushmere. No Gary Bushmere no odon ni gene ho ni ade on Derek Van Yeboah dey din command Derek Van Yeboah catch so omo create business. It omo create 2 companies. Baako GCTW and baako GBW. It was a Gary Bushmere. And a W mami no needing JW no and a twaso no good and a somebody creative businesses way. Now sa business we mo create no sika Derek Van Yeboah agye ho any business no mo create account mo create and sika afemu no FBI for chapa mo investigations no from November 2017 to 1st of August 2020 sika be $2.3 million and half sa account ni mo. Third victim no mami bi say ono so 60 years ono fi Delaware and o tell me say Derek Van Yeboah ehia no our time up so na Derek Van Yeboah introduce no say the din at the Greg White ono sa maami so chia say na Derek Van Yeboah ne maami JW creative business JCTW and GBW no sa no maami ya ye friend MSC of Delaware ono so Derek Van Yeboah and no creative company MSJW. Eti MS ni maame no ni initials no and JW no Derek Van Yeboah edin o use here our time app ni so Greg White no initials no and on maame we creative company no. Omo creative company no sika Derek Van Yeboah agye fi ono maame ni ho and sika afa sa company no account mu from July 2020 to November 2020 no bebe $1.9 million. Ni na akọ Derek Van Yeboah. The fourth victim no papa bi friend RB. Papa RB is 68 years old. No. Of North Carolina. Ocha Derek Van Yeboah introduce no ho. So ni din Lisa Olsen. No Lisa Olsen ne kra no ne papa ewu ma chese nya asem ketwa ene ade na ohia moa kakra ene de kaka ho but ono papa no Lisa Olsen story ni di and it's 3 months no. Later na Lisa Olsen yaba be catch on papa ni say your friend is saying diamonds be any gold be I store Italy na ka pese oboa me na me ye why I say now the first one no about funeral expenses no and the Lisa no pay $50,000 on papa na fa Lisa. But the second one ne die ni sika bebe $123,000 and Lisa man ne kwaje ebosia one for no sika kwaje ebosia ma Lisa no $123,000 say Lisa anfa nkonko yi gold no any diamond na was store Italy no san na ekwa Derek Van Yeboah ho. Now this is where it gets interesting, right? San komo na papa we di yi FBI for arrest Derek Van Yeboah no almost seize Derek Van Yeboah phone so no omu ye say between 13th of October 2024 24th of October in the year 2024 no na Derek Van Yeboah and papa RB are exchanging by 470 text messages. 470 text messages. Our mobile phone now. Omo Jeffrey Derek Van Yeboah ho ema omo arresting no. Now it's Derek Van Yeboah hiding behind the identity we create online as Lisa Olsen and papa RB atwetwe nkomo from 13th of October to 24th of October 2024 no 470 messages and FBI for ehuye ewo chat no emo che Derek Van Yeboah no mo say Derek Van Yeboah lawyers tro say na Derek Van Yeboah no mo ye businessman ewo Ghana or real estate na there onwa oni edwuma bia Derek Van Yeboah mate say more cash obituary institution of $10 million no also will fee valued at $500,000 or also jewelry bebe $200,000 and $300,000 bi ho or also multiple luxury vehicles ni na onya fi krono die ni mu ni na onya fi for nepo cars na Derek Van Yeboah say owo no right Mercedes Benz are owo no say one van say otwi Mercedes Benz bia every US stolen car US o Lexus I be amu say Derek Van Yeboah time all Ghana no e chairman na otwi no almost say cowboy na otwi no and also na stolen car from Canada into Derek Van Yeboah no integrity ben and on person judge ni gina so de ehunu mobo ohunu mobo nya yi onipa no otwi stolen cars nisika osi wenya jewelry award die on one na from Ford proceeds ni company also award Van Scope Estate and na there no from Ford proceeds account no Van Scope Estate dey dey account na no Ford CK and e fa mu e be to sa account no nti e legit business na Derek Van Yeboah no ewo again e ma mo kokko arrest Derek Van Yeboah no kra no na owotuo ewo no ho perhaps license gun and I just say FBI for ehuye it is a Derek Van Yeboah no e ka so onye violent person oye ni papa and omo ne mobo any ade now, Oma who said Derek Van Yeboah lawyer sure on the case of vulnerability. One of the factors original so edema obi sentence no. Say no more right thinking individuals no more pa 80 years ho beka say bi omo vulnerable ne de kaka. Some of them were emotionally vulnerable. One of them mami just on a third victim and the MSC of Delaware. On the Derek Van Yeboah creative company MSJW. Derek Van Yeboah treated the $1.9 million US. Some I say, oye kuneniba. The time a Derek Van Yeboah shiano no. Na say ma mini kune fresh. Why vulnerable emotionally, psychologically, or your companion. Why ready so be moving on. It is that time no one Derek Van Yeboah this shiano. It's not no many feel say we nya odo. So the woman was emotionally vulnerable. And Derek Van Yeboah nim se maame no through nkomodie mu ne kunu ewu nti no take advantage. O take advantage. Ebe yes o ye friend Greg White ni ade o di twi maame no edie. Derek Van Yeboah capitalize on maame ni loneliness. Now again, said Derek Van Yeboah lawyers person mo chair judge ne said Derek Van Yeboah ni edi papa he Ghana ban cry actual letter. Ghana ban actual letter di aba. Say fraud for we no. Almost sabotage Ghana your national economic aspirations. Because go through sophisticated fraudulent activities when money laundering scheme where go Ghana buying any mass. I make say FBI for document almost a GFIC Ghana your financial intelligence center for actual letter crowd their FBI for Or say, as the GFIC states, while individual victims have suffered direct and huge losses, the unseen victim of this sophisticated fraud and money laundering scheme is the integrity of our financial system, institutional credibility, and international standing of the nation. This reputational damage is not easily repaired, as it takes time to undo the perception of the country being branded a safe environment for illicit flows. Legitimate global investors become hesitant to commit capital when the local financial ecosystem is perceived as compromised, leading to reassessment of risk exposure, delay in commitment, and possible diversion of investment to other jurisdictions. As a result, the GFIC notes that the offender has effectively stolen growth opportunities from the youth and legitimate workforce of the country. It's about Ghana Financial Intelligence Center across the massa. South we almost say Ghana D. Much of my find Yamo. Omomana say investors crab almost see a Ghana for the Ghana for the Ghana for the say Ghana by D. Move on your move. It's Ghana buying the crano. Ghana buying the crano. Editum says Sanko for we the papone for Inter Sena lawyer who Jino van. I will USA. Ubabeka send a van with papa. Papa. Forget it, papa. And again, U.S. Justice Department, I can't so twice say, hey, when did it be? To me, I identify maybe 200 victims, approximately 200 victims. Now, so we pay attention to class now, my main mental hasi. Because I say FBI for, and I say Justice Department, I can say the entire fraud and I say romance scheme, in how many layers? And I say food chain, layers do not send home. 4, correct. Why not that top? Chairman, correct. So, it can be said from all the 4 layers, Ombenya, number of victims, right? Great. And another one, Yeboah, the position our layers now, FBI for born me a day. Sakama boy, good. I will share there. Good. Now, share there. Justice Department, my final letter, much trauma judge, say never convince judge now, van. A harsh sentence. Or more catch a judge and say, hey, or more identify by approximately 200 victims. Some victims we know, and be another Van Yeboah, and yet directly involved with the victims. But scheme now Derek Van Yeboah a part of no. And Crawford war Derek Van Yeboah a link it to. Some Crawford no. Or more victims, baby 200. So the possibility that Derek Van Yeboah and Crawford Emma so we have 200 victims no high. Though more established as a direct there by one this uncle for 200 na a chat no. Now on this any payer or victims here 200 our connection. Any payer why mo Fred Asante any Calvin Freeman. Obekaya me a story be the AI pictures share say nipa back for be Fred Asante na there okay good. We are sharp who follow one kind of link in that comment section. Fred Asante and our face to Calvin Freeman. Our victims are 200. And Derek Van Yeboah are connected to Fred Asante and Calvin Freeman. Or are connected to them. And America, see, almost say, finally, the government has identified at least approximately 200 other victims in the cases of just 2 of Van's co-conspirators, Fred Asante and Calvin Freeman. While the government has no evidence that Van was directly involved in scamming these specific victims, he was connected to both defendants in the fraud scheme. As such, the government includes victim impact statements from the sentencing of both Asante and Freeman to impact Fred Van Yeboah on certain victims. And to show how our scheme will take advantage of vulnerable people. Among the victim impact statement of Fred Asante and Calvin Freeman, judge say judge and how and will take advantage of vulnerable people. Now in Fred Asante and Calvin Freeman case and a Derek Van Yeboah DPM or What's in common I say? Now, some more can answer, right? Fred Asante enya 9 years. Calvin Freeman enya 6 years and 5 months. And as I make say 6.5 years. It's a bad saying. Ena Sir Fred enya 9 years. Na Calvin Freeman enya 6.5 years. Oba beka e dey ache judge no. As lawyer for Derek Van Yeboah, Baba catch judge and say judge no ma client no saying 5 years. NC because omo FBI for and I say US Justice Department no omo skill omo dey nkrofo yi na aba beto so. And I'm going to make you understand the skill, right? This is the skill. In the Fred Asante Calvin Freeman issue, right? There was one woman called Deborah Mensah, honestly a part of this whole thing. Okay, now Deborah Mensah, Omoka say scheme no ye part of no. Abo Nkrofoka any a victim impact no. Omo losses no. Abo Nkrofoka be $3.5 million. But accountant Deborah e control ne die. Omo ni says ka be $1.5 million. And a call Deborah honomo. It's on Deborah a range of $1.5 million to $3.5 million. Every more prosecuting Deborah no. States no a propose here say abaine ma Deborah 7 years. Abaino Emma Deborah 5.5 years. For just $1.5 million to $3.5 million. States no a sentence Deborah to 5.5 years. Calvin Freeman. And so Sikano similar to Deborah Diano. State no play here say judge no Emma Calvin Freeman 7 years. Judge no Emma Calvin Freeman 6.5 years. Fred Asante edie sika efa ne nsase bedi ni hono me bebe $3.5 million. But a car or my victims boy you know $9.5 million. Fred Asante state no a plead for 10 years. Abai no Emma no 9 solid years. And no de Fred Asante. In the case of Derek Van Yeboah, Amoni said a car one my victims na born $10 million. It is I nipa me say am be born with we and Derek Van Yeboah. Why na wo so say or what Derek Van Yeboah level and I said Derek Van Yeboah won a level. And Fred Asante. Rightly so. FBI for and as a Department of Justice, a written address to the judge before sentencing. Omo try say, in addition to his loss amount, in addition, his loss amount substantially exceeds the loss amount attributed to almost all of the other defendants. Accordingly, the government views Van Yeboah as far more culpable than Deborah Mensah, as far more culpable than Ademu, Rufai, and Calvin Freeman, and as marginally more culpable, or at least equivalently culpable as Asante. The assessment Derek Van Yeboah, and 1 year Department of Justice for Nebufu, and they say, almost say Derek Van Yeboah, no, right? Out of Fred Asante, Calvin Freeman, Deborah Mensah, Rufai, Adamu, Moni Adiano, Derek Van Yeboah, personally on and on chatting Crawford, so he was directly involved with the victims. But the other people no more movie sika, ne ebimo aye chairman, ebimo aye your friend is saying middleman, ebimo aye aboki. But for Derek Van Yeboah, he was a Sakawa boy chatting them. I say, as described above, Van Yeboah is differently situated than these defendants in that he was personally involved in defrauding victims through romance scams, while the other victims, they don't have direct contact with their victims, but rather only received fraudulent proceeds into their account. And he said other people almost receiving proceeds into their account, and they be almost directly how our fans in the movie are. And I hope say obi no ye directly involved with all scamming Crawford or chatting or scam ye man in lesser sentence than in Crawford or the receive sika get to account. How? O man in lesser sentence enye. Into the Department of Justice for Ekai say Derek Van Yeboah de first of all the loss amount a bro omo amabobo so yira so. It is omo man sentence be dia. Omo man obey 97 to 121 months, 8 years to 10 years here, omo famano. Because the loss amount between 9.5 billion US dollars and 25 million US dollars based on scheme now you're part of Fred Asante money at this scheme more money is arranged so man anything less than and again no crano say that Derek Van Yeboah lawyer can say that Derek Van Yeboah enu ne ho any ade no Derek Van Yeboah or engaging in fraudulent activity for 9 solid years. Every single day he woke up and got involved in fraud. And yet isolated conduct. And you say that could be and or yeah involved in and in the past I catch up with him. It was something that he woke up for 9 solid years until even 24th of October 2024 he was still texting people as Lisa Olsen for 9 solid years. And you say baby na enemy. Oh yes, or targeting vulnerable victims day after day for years. And you make every for the community. Van Yeboah's conduct was more, Van Yeboah's conduct was far from an aberration. Van Yeboah engaged in the fraud scheme for 9 solid years. It wasn't isolated conduct. It wasn't a blip. It was what he did for approximately quarter of his life. Indeed, it appears to be the only real job Van Yeboah has ever had. Day after day for years, he targeted vulnerable victims, lied to them, and stole from them. And while Van Yeboah likely did not keep majority of more than 10 million US dollars, he helped to steal. His financial gain from his romance scams was very, very substantial. This was his job. It was lucrative enough for him to own an expensive house, expensive jewelry, and several expensive cars, which some of them are stolen cars. Into Van Yeboah. So, Omoma no anything less because in the point what he penny Fred Asante ya 108 months in prison. I translated to 9 solid years. Omoma Van Yeboah anything less because Fred Asante no sika ban account me 6.7 million US dollars. But Van Yeboah there no a greater amount. And a ban account. And a ban account. Again, Omoka say oh let us know. Some let us move some chow. The Department of Justice for say Omo say let us say so Van Yeboah no all the man for or boa strangers or boa money adie. I was so more kind who say Van Yeboah the generosity no na eye from fraud proceeds our free innocent victims ho and or bagana no baba ye and na you generous and na charity and na papa we dey ye me ye and na every for the come say Van Yeboah attached a number of letters on his behalf that he describes as showing that Mr. Van Yeboah quietly used his resources to let others, often strangers, and never for once ask for recognition of payment. Van Yeboah may have been financially generous within his family and his community, but the money he was giving away was from fraud proceeds that he stole from innocent victims, and Van Yeboah appears to have lived a lavish lifestyle in Ghana even after his financial contribution. That's the fact that Van Yeboah shared stolen money with others is no reason to impose a lenient sentence. The fact that Van Yeboah is generous any adiano and just what deserve a lenient sentence. Again, Omewu say Van Yeboah say nebusia for hiano any idea. Masa Van Yeboah no omo hwe no and every single day onim so we busia for one for 9 years. For 9 years of bulk chrono and a criminal conduct for over 9 years. Now man finding himself in this situation. And you more FBI for 9 years. Ne emamo fa ne busu yasem na ne mba no na ne yeri na mkola numo most debi emamo fa justify. Again, Van Yeboah no mo say ono an we plead guilty and o say obeti restitution e wo so mo gina so di hu ni mo bo. Ha. Van Yeboah no on transfer sika bia man the victims say bia o nipa se mesi meji 1.9 million US dollars for sanje usika eno kra de nke betumi ahye so ye remorseful emo bia ndada we anya remorseful o because of FBI for enya evidence hardcore evidence against my Yeboah no enti na waje na phone so atum anya so ye remorseful bia just say we regret it so much no FBI for na come say tie. This is the conduct of a man who regrets getting caught, not one who regrets committing the crime. Inti ema judge ni hu ni mobo. Ema judge ni hu ni mobo. Mo ka say na Yeboah no, or ye law abide no ko prison or kra no, or ye good chap and on pen ho asem ni ade enipa no sorry for 9 solid years every single day for their man for. Onye lo aba. We ye edwuma why for nearly a decade. For nearly a decade. Into almost say, Omohu say probation for recommended 60 months prison term. Omodie, the Omo recommended no, a very simple. Omo pay 97 to 121 months, and no Omo pay. Of course, Osha sentencing guideline now, a 78 to 97 months. But Omo pay more than that. Edi ama Van Yeboah, lawyers any idea is 60 months. And we are the Omo sre. Guidelines which say Van Yeboah nya 78 to 97 months, but more pay crime point ka judge no enter 97 months and fin 121 months and for emomo judge net say and now 28th of July 2026 New York na about 2 o'clock on New York na Ghana ha about 6 o'clock Ghana ha and a judge no a sentence Van Yeboah to 85 months in prison. It would say in between sentencing guidelines no of 78 and 97 months no. And a judge Ejina and Finfi Emma Van Yeboah 85 months in prison. I translated to 7 years and some months. And also sentencing to 2 years supervised release. Supervised release no. Senka Van Yeboah a US citizen and can no dear in free prison bar after 7 years and 2 years no or one that probation what the income monitor 29 any idea but summary supervised release no on qualify for and see owie ne 7 years sentence no US one ma obeba ebe piemu Ghana ha so me deport am be piemu Ghana dem no all serving the sentence no obetua 10 million US dollars in restitution and for feature into the Japade bi wo any ade no betwi dem sa to so and the kaka ho ni na no ombeboabo no kopim say ombenya 10 million US dollars if we Derek Van Yeboah ho no mo na omo dia compensate victims no any omo mo kaka ho aha go 64 background